welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist, DT from Weather Risk, your commander of chaos, your captain of confusion, your colonel of catastrophe. Let's talk about this week in weather. We got a lot of topics here to talk about, so congratulations on my Phillies. I'm going to play the Braves. Let's see what we can do against them this year. Um, but the main reason I'm doing this, and that's why the video is a little late, but anyway, so we're doing this is as of October 4 5. And a couple of topics here. First, there's a pattern change coming up really fast. I started talking about this last week. So if the pattern change and the cold front verifies, this will be a 10 or 11 or 12 day forecast from when I first started talking about this significant autumn blast coming in here. And it will be the first autumn blast of the season. And for some, it'll be the first frost. There's also a high probability or chance of, if you will, of a major eastern U.S. low. Might be a Midwest low, might be a Tennessee Valley, Mid-Atlantic low, East Coast, I don't know. But something significant is likely to happen around October 15. So, and that would be the fourth, I think, coastal storm of the season. No, that would be the third one of the season, yeah. So we'll see if that actually happens. Now, other thing I want to point out here is the preliminary winter forecast will be released to my clients, former clients, potential clients this weekend. The preliminary winter forecast will be released to the public October 10, 11 next week. And I'll be starting a new winter page on Twitter, which will be called the snowstorm page. That's going to be coming up on Twitter. So, and it'll have all the advanced features there. So look for that. That'll probably be up either this weekend or next week. All right. So let's get into it. Now here's our latest. We're starting this with the Arctic oscillations and the North American oscillation here. You notice European ensemble here, it stays negative pretty much through October 16th, and it kind of goes neutral a little bit, but this is negative, not strongly negative, but it is definitely negative. And here's the North American oscillation, and again you can see negative and then close to neutral, but again slightly negative and then back to neutral here by the middle of the month. So this is early in season for this, but both of these features are running a little negative. The PNA, interestingly enough, we're getting a ridge here in western North America, so we do go positive here, back towards neutral a little bit, and then positive again by the middle of the month. Dealing with the El Nino, this is what we can say right now with the El Nino. All the values here have definitely dropped, as you can see, and the region we focus on is this region here, region 3.4. Oops. This region right here, this is the region we focus on, 3.4. So this is off of South America, region 3, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. As you can see, here also Australians as of October 1st, CPC as of October 2nd, and all the values here in the last week have all dropped significantly, especially region 1.2 and region 2.4, they've dropped. So meanwhile, the key area here, 1.6, 1 point almost 4, so this is a moderate El Nino. That's what this is so far. And if we look at the El Nino, we'll see some interesting things here. This is as of October 3rd. I didn't change the date up here. Let me change the date on this so you can see what I'm talking about. This is October 3rd here. And so we can see the black arrow here. This is the El Nino very nicely here. Notice the Atlantic Ocean is still fairly warm, but we're getting a lot of upwelling from the recent storms in the North Atlantic, so the water temperatures are kind of dropping off. But the main thing to point out here is this pool of cold water. You see that this is the pool of Alaska. Then you have the warm water in the Central Pacific over to California. And then you have this pool of cold water right here. This whole thing in green, the warm water and the cold water north of the El Nino, this whole thing is referred to as the Pacific Meridional Mode, the PMM. And when you have cold water off the coast of Baja, it ends up impacting the El Nino in a dramatic way. So I'm seeing a lot of forecasts out there talking about a moderate or strong El Nino, and that's all they're doing. But what they're not understanding here is the significance of this feature here, which is the PMM. Let me show you what I mean. This is the Australian forecast, right? This is as of 9/23. Now it's come down a little bit. The Australians are still the warmest of any of the models, but this is way wrong. You can see the green line goes to around plus 2.9 by January. This has come down. The ones back in August and early September were over 3.2, which would be the strongest El Nino of all time in region 3.4. Okay, so but that's wrong. Now here's the CFS. Now the new European will be out later on this week. But this is the CFS, and what the CFS is doing is for the last couple of weeks it has showed this drop. You see this drop right here in the sea surface temperatures for the month of September. Then it bottoms out and begins to warm again. But because it does this drop here, the projections, if you look at the dashed black line, it never gets to 2.0. See that? Never gets there. Stays around 1.5 December, January, and then it begins the weakening in the second half of the winter pretty rapidly. So this drop here, which I thought was wrong, is correct. The CFS is going to be correct. So, you bash the CFS all you want, but it got this right. It really did. Okay, now let's talk about this PMM and AMM. Some of you may know about this, some of you may not. This is kind of technical. Just follow along with me here. It's really, really important. Okay, really important. This is the PMM and AMM. So this is when the positive phase on the Pacific meridional mode, you have all this warm water off the coast of Baja, which there's Hawaii, which stretches almost out to the equator, south of Hawaii. See that? This is the warm water. And in the Atlantic, when this area off the coast of Africa is really warm, it enhances hurricane activity. See that? So the AMM, when it's positive, enhances hurricane activity. It keeps the water temperatures even warmer than they normally are off the coast of Africa. So we all know the water temperatures get warm here during the hurricane season, but right off the coast of Africa, the AMM is in the positive phase, and that's what we've seen this hurricane season. That's exactly what we've seen this hurricane season. There it is. There we can see the AMM positive right here. Okay? Now, the problem is on the Pacific side, the PMM. Again, the same image we just looked at, but let's talk about the Pacific meridional. This is the positive phase. But as you can see, okay, when it's in the positive phase, the warm sea surface temperatures from Baja out to Hawaii enhance the El Nino. They make it stronger than normal. But in this case, we are negative. Again, negative PMM. See this? This is suppressing and screwing up the El Nino. It really is. And the proof of that is here. Okay? This is the latest MJO. Right here, you can see it. And you can see over the last 90 days. Look at the MJO being stuck here in the neutral circle. This is not what you normally see in an El Nino. In El Nino, the MJO is going through these phases, say 6 and 7, 8 and 1 and 2, like a clock. This thing is stuck in the neutral circle. Even now, the latest projection showed barely, here's the GFS, the European, the Japanese, barely getting into phase 8 and phase 1. Very weak MJO all the way through October 17th. Another proof of this is the hurricane season. This is one of the most active hurricane seasons ever with an El Nino. Something's wrong. Look at the drought in the Midwest. We've never had a drought like this in the Midwest during El Nino. Never. This has been the driest summer ever in the Midwest. Go to the drought monitor maps and take a look at the soil moisture, at the soil depletion. Driest Midwest ever in El Nino. Something is wrong with the El Nino. And that is this, the PMM, in the negative phase. That's screwing up the El Nino. Okay. So the point of all this is that if you're looking at these projections and saying, well, El Nino is going to do this, El Nino is going to do that. No, there's something wrong with this El Nino. So even though the data might show that it's moderate or strong, if this problem continues, the El Nino will continue to operate as a weak El Nino. Now, weak El Ninos are really good for if you like snow and cold in the eastern U.S. So let's just keep that in mind. We'll see how this develops. Just because it's weak now doesn't mean this is going to stay. It's possible that the cold water off the coast of Baja might disappear, which would make the El Nino back to normal. But if this holds on into the winter, it's going to mean something. Okay, here's the latest surface map. You can see the high pressure right here, very nice. Okay, keeping the East Coast with really nice temperatures. Meanwhile, look at Chicago and St. Louis up in the upper 70s and 80s. You're getting southwest wind, but on the East Coast, you're still getting the east or northeast wind. All right, what's going to happen here? This is the jet stream map as of October 1st. So the reason why we have this map, the surface map, is because of this. This is the major trough right here in California, the West Coast. Look at this monster. It's come down here, huge, big upper low. And look at the ridge here, the upper low off the coast. This is the low which brought the heavy rains to New York City and Connecticut and New Jersey. So this is actually kind of an omega ridge. You see how it's shaped like the letter omega? Okay, so this upper low, it causes this ridge to be very strong. And underneath the Midwest, you can see temperatures are really above normal. But again, on the East Coast, not that bad because you're still getting a northeast wind. Only New England is a few degrees above normal, mostly in the interior Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Northern Virginia. The southeast states are near normal. All the real warmth is back here in the Midwest because they're getting southwest winds. And their temperature anomalies fall a lot faster in October than they do on the East Coast. Okay, what happens here is, let me blow this first map up so you can see it. Okay, so this is now Friday. This trough that was in the West Coast comes, um, amplifies and moves into the Midwest, and another piece of energy drops down into it. So the trough really amplifies here. You have a nice ridge. See the red here? That's a ridge right here. Okay, and the trough amplifies as it plows towards the East Coast. This might be Philip, the tropical storm out there. It might just be an extratropical low. I'm not certain. But in any event, the remains of Philip get pulled into the system, and the system goes bonkers like this was November or December. Look at this thing. Bring the front. You can see it go. Yeah, and you can see. Look at this monster trough here. Look at this thing. Goes absolutely closes off and bombs out. This is Saturday night. And look at, and this is going to pull down a bunch of cold air. Now, if this was December, January, this would be Arctic outbreak. It really, really would be. Okay, so this is an impressive shot and really nice. I do have to mention that we did not see troughs like this at all last winter or the winter before. In the October of 2022 or October 2021, we never saw monster troughs like this. So that's also different. Okay, here's the surface map. I blow this up over here so you can see it. And you can see there's the upper low, the surface low. Okay, it comes out the trough right across the Dakotas, Minnesota, north of the Great Lakes. There's the cold front. This is Friday morning. Friday morning. There's the strong, cold high pressure system, 1039 millibars, not bad. There's the winds developing, the northwest winds driving the cold front. The front eventually reaches, as you can see here, it moves off the east coast on Saturday morning. Now this is maybe Philip, and it looks like it's going to be pulled into Maine, and that's what the Hurricane Center has. And I think that makes sense. It gets absorbed by the upper low. And look at the high drops down to Oklahoma, and look here the winds. The blue line shows the isobars of strong winds, 15 to 30 miles an hour, higher gusts, pulling down the cold air. This is not Arctic air. This is not extreme, but it is the first cold blast of the autumn season for the eastern U.S. of significance. That's all. Not the end of the world, not snow, nothing, not extreme, but the first cold blast. Okay, good. Now, what happens after this? This upper level map is valid for a Sunday night. And let me blow it up here. There you go. Look at this monster trough. Just really quite powerful. Jesus, something you don't see in October. It's been a long time since we've seen this in October. It does happen, but it's kind of early for early October. This is October 9th. This is Sunday night. And you can see the ridge here. You have a thumb ridge in the northwest Atlantic. Not a negative NAO, but a thumb ridge. And you can see this huge closed upper low here. And there's a lot of cold air east of the Mississippi River. And if we look at the surface map, okay, the system which was off the coast, which may be Felipe, gets pulled inland, and now you can see it's a huge storm in Quebec, Canada. If this was November 8th as opposed to October 8th, this would be snowstorm in Quebec, Canada. It's not, but it would be. You can see the strong winds here. And there's the big high coming down from the north, pulling down the cold air. So this is an impressive system here for Sunday. Okay, and look at these temperatures. We'll see these temperatures here in just a second. This is the min temperatures on Sunday morning for the eastern U.S. Now, notice you see some 30s. On the bottom right is the Mid-Atlantic, but you can see there's a lot of 30s in the Great Lakes, okay, and the Shenandoah Valley, the western North Carolina mountains, eastern portions of West Virginia, upper 30s really. And then you can see the min temperatures here in the Mid-Atlantic. Blow it up even more, you can see. Again, 48 in Richmond. That's not extreme, but it's cold. This is probably even underdone. If the winds drop off, it could be even colder than that. Look at the temperatures in Pennsylvania, New York, New England, Ohio. Pretty decent. This is the temperatures now from Monday morning. Okay, a little colder. You can see more frost. The white colors represent temperatures in the 30s. Frost in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New York, mountains of New England, northwest Connecticut, western Maryland, uh, eastern portion of the Greenbrier Valley in West Virginia, maybe southwest Virginia, but probably not yet. And then this is the max temperatures. This is Monday. 50s in the mountains, near 60 New England, New York City, and then 60s in Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, West Virginia, and around 70 in North Carolina. Again, nothing record shattering, but a chilly, windy, cool day on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Now it gets even colder. Again, because this system is so big, look at this monster upper low right here. Look how big it is. Okay, it just lingers here for days, and you can see these are the min temperatures Wednesday morning and on Thursday morning. Now look at these values again. You can see a lot of frost here in the Shenandoah Valley and in West Virginia, Western Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York State. Here the winds will have dropped off significantly, and this is if we're going to get a frost in these areas, this is where it's going to be here on Wednesday or Thursday morning when those winds drop off completely in those colder areas. Now, what happens after this? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, here is the upper air pattern now, 168 hours, the European, Wednesday, October 11th. Look at the huge block here. Okay, monster block, northern Canada over towards southern Greenland. If we have this in the winter, we're going to have a lot of snowstorms and winter storms in the eastern half of the country. If we keep this. Now, we might not. I've seen a lot of autumns where you have good blocking and it falls apart in the heart of the winter. Okay, but this is an encouraging sign. We did not have a lot of this last year or the year before. Meanwhile, the upper lows moved here into James Bay, Canada. The trough is still deep. But look at the energy coming in here on this El Nino jet. Pacific jet. This is all El Nino-like pattern. Here's another one here. And there's another one. Now this goes negative as it drops down from Washington, Arizona, Colorado, and develops low pressure in Texas and New Mexico. And it's going to go underneath the blocking pattern. See this? It's going to go underneath it. It can't go to Minnesota. It has to go underneath it. With this feature in here, it's got to go track underneath it. And that's exactly what happens. Here's the GFS, valid for October 13th, 14th. You have low pressure in the Midwest, and another low off the Florida coast. Okay, these two systems become a big deal off the Mid-Atlantic coast, October 15th. Cold high coming down. Here's the European. European has a bit more in the southern stream because the European does better with southern stream energy than the GFS, but it's a very significant system here. Again, if this was middle of December, this would be a snowstorm for a lot of people. Big high in Manitoba, another high moving off the mid-Atlantic. Not bad. This potentially is a big rainstorm for the large portion of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, the mid-Atlantic states, New England. Now what happens after this? Well, it goes from here to this. Wow. I mean, wow. Okay, so the upper low, which is here now, is southern stream energy, Arkansas, Tennessee, southeast Missouri. You have this upper low here, the one which was from a couple of days ago. That system is still there. It's still in southeast Canada. Why? Why can't this move? Because of the block. So the block won't let it move. And here, October 14th, this block is still so massive that the other low is trapped here. So this is essentially what we call a 50-50 low. 50 degrees north latitude, 50 degrees west longitude, which is southeastern Canada. It goes from Newfoundland, Canada over towards western Quebec. Right? So the southern energy, which we just talked about, is now here in Tennessee and Arkansas. If this is winter, this would be a huge mid-Atlantic snowstorm. This really would be one if this is the winter pattern. This would be a huge snowstorm. No doubt about it. Nice strong ridge over the Rockies, just where you want it. Between the Rockies and the West Coast, I'm telling you, this would be huge. Now, here is the GFS. Okay, so we saw this system. Where does it go from here? On October 14th. And here in the upper left, October 15th. Look at this monster storm. Two lows here. Now, this is probably wrong, but the GFS is, it's still figuring it out. But you can see it's a big low in the Mid-Atlantic, a lot of rain, cool temperatures. Look at the high here in Minnesota and the cold north winds coming down. I'm telling you, if this was the middle of winter. And here's the European. Now, the European's a little different because it moves off the coast, but it's the same idea. Big coastal storm comes roaring out of the deep south and hits the mid-Atlantic and southern New England with significant rain. And then finally, if we go beyond this, this is now October 18th. Oh, look, another storm. Okay, see the blocking here in the orange, all the positive values here? This is a huge block in Hudson's Bay, Canada, a nice ridge in the Rockies, and a neutral tilted trough right here with obvious low pressure developing in the mid-Atlantic or the Tennessee Valley on October 18th. So this is a very active pattern. Now, again, if we can keep the pattern into the winter, we have 60 more days to go through, folks. 60 more days before we know that. But it does look kind of promising. Anyway, that's the report. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll see you over the Twitter page and over on the website.